Right, we've been doing a series on vision, and I want to ask, who of you have a vision for something? Put your hand up, I want to see. Some of you don't have a vision. If you do not have a vision, what are you going to work towards, run towards? I believe a vision is a crucial part of all of our lives, irrespective of, I have a vision of getting rid of this little fat here, which means what am I going to have to do? What's my action plan? I'm going to have to exercise. I'm going to have to do sit-ups, pull-ups, all these kind of, do you understand what? Even there, but that's no. All of us have different vision. Vision for my health, a vision for my family, a vision for my occupation, a vision for my finances, a vision for, do you understand? All of us should have some or other vision in our lives. And I want to encourage you to relate this message to that. A vision for whatever, to see your friends come to salvation, whatever the case may be. Take these principles and what is taught and relay it into that area of your life. And there can be, you can have numerous different visions. But it's pointless having a vision and you don't put the vision into action. You need to do something about it. So I want to just lay a bit, I'm going to just come back for those of you that weren't here, just to lay a bit of a foundation. If you go to the next slide, you'll have a look there. Here, I trust most of you know where Jerusalem is. Do all of you know where Jerusalem? Here's Jerusalem, okay? Here's Israel. This tiny little piece there of this segment here is Jerusalem. There's Jerusalem. This is Israel, okay? Here's, most of you should know where this is, Turkey, okay? This here is Iran, where they're busy building or trying to build a nuclear bomb. For what purpose do they want the nuclear bomb? To destroy Israel. They have said that numerous times. And Israel will never allow them to get a nuclear bomb, so I guarantee you they are going to bomb them and bomb them soon. Mark my words, it will come. Okay. And then we'll see what will happen after that. So this is Iran here, this is Iraq here, this is Saudi Arabia, Turkey, here's Syria, where Israel often bombs at the moment because Hamas and all of those guys, Iran is supplying them with bombs to to try and destroy Israel. So there's Syria up there. So I think most of you now know where we are. Now here's Israel, and what had happened was Nebuchadnezzar and the Babylonians attacked Jerusalem and destroyed Jerusalem. They destroyed the temple and the walls, and then they were exiled. They were taken all around, all the way down to Iraq down here, and here's Persia is Iran, and this is where you will see there, this is where old Nebuchadnezzar was serving as the cupbearer to the king. Now, how many of you know how far that is from there to here? That's about 1,500 kilometers. And they had to, no, they were given a jet to fly there into exile. Hello? How did they get there? With these, they had to walk. Who of you have walked 1,500 kilometers? Day in, day out. Any of you? That's about 3 months walk, okay? Give or take. Now, can you imagine that's a long way away? They were exiled a long way away from home. And then decades later, here is Nehemiah, and he's serving the king, and suddenly he hears this, he's serving Artaxerxes, and then his brother comes and tells him the story, and he's so moved by what he hears, and he says, my hometown, where I should be, is destroyed. He says, no, and he's moved to tears, and then he prays to God. And who do you think moved him to tears? Who moves us and suddenly you feel something, I need to do this, I need to, who did, okay, God moved his heart, okay? And what does he do? He prays to God and says, Lord, please change the situation. And God basically says to him, you do something about it. And so he goes, and we learned that he goes to the king and he says, listen, how would you feel if you were in this situation? And we shared on that last week that you don't speak to a king, he speaks to you. And if he will allow it, you can speak to him. If you speak to a king without him giving you the permission, he will. Okay, so even though he was the cupbearer to the king, in other words, he would eat the food and drink the drinks prior to the king drinking it or eating it. So if he died, then the king would not, someone was trying to poison him, so he wouldn't drink it or eat it. So that's what his role was. So he was close to the king and a very trusted servant to the king. So when the king said, why are you so downcast, gave him an opportunity, the ideal opportunity to speak. And he speaks and he says, King, how would you feel if you were in this situation? And the king moves favorably for him and says, you go and you sort it out. Go sort out this problem. He just wants to know how long it's going to take, etc., etc. And he lets him go. How incredible is that? He doesn't just let him go. He gives him the resources. He gives him a cavalry and everything to go with him. So basically, that is the story. So here he is right here. Now, a lot of the Jews, Hebrews were here. They were exiled into this whole area. If you look on the next slide, there you can see that's where Susa and Shushan. This is where, when we read it in the Bible, this is where Nehemiah was. So he had to go all this way to there. Anyway, yes, we read that they were given camels. What would often happen is they would be given they would have camels, and because camels could endure tremendous heat and hardship. Okay, so they would normally go on camel, and then when they immediately got into battle, what would they do? They'd jump onto their horses, so their horses were fresh. So he was privileged enough that he had camels and a cavalry that took him there. So because the king was so kind towards him and favorable. So that's basically the situation that we were at last week, where we understand when Nehemiah comes, asks, and the king says, go. So I just want to recap last week. Be time conscious when to move. Be aware when God says now's the time to move. Don't just move at any time. Be wise in your approach. And he was very clever. He said, King, what would you do in this situation? So he put the king in his position. Be prayerful at all times through the process. He prayed and he asked God, what should be done in this situation? And you need to pray in your situation. Be bold and clear and honest. Say, I think it's going to take me this long to do this and accomplish this. I need this. And be courageous and ask for help. I tell you what, most things in life will not be accomplished, great things, without other people's help and assistance. But you need to get them on board. Be aware and acknowledge God's blessing. And he said, the hand of the Lord was upon me. The favor of God. And we need to acknowledge the blessing of God in everything that we do and accomplish. Number 7, be sure that you will have opposition. That you need to know. No matter what you do, you're going to have opposition. Even in your exercise, oh man, you're old, why do you want to do push-ups and sit-ups? You're going to have that. Someone's going to say that to you. And no matter what your vision is, be willing, be well planned. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this. This is the program I'm going to work on. Be ready to start when you have the green light. When God says, now's the time, go for it. Right, so today we're going to have a look at called to have courage to fulfill the vision. Do you know that it takes courage to fulfill any vision? It just comes to mind now, old Elon Musk, and him sending up these rockets to space. Do you know that he failed 3 times? If the 4th one failed, he was going under. Do you know that? And he had to decide, does he put everything on the line or does he give up? Would you put everything on the line? Only if you have a true vision that no matter what, you will never give up. And that to me is amazing, and that was his attitude. Even if I lose everything, I'm not giving up. And it worked, and from there, and we need to be like that. Don't give up, no matter what. So, actions make dreams come true, not stagnation. And many of us stagnate. I want to accomplish this, but, and we look at all the negative situations. We look at all the, I can't do this, I don't have this, I don't have these resources, and we do nothing. We just stagnate. Eventually, the vision dies. So success comes when 1,000 hours of preparation meets 1 moment of opportunity. And I tell you, Nehemiah went through all these different scenarios. What happens if I speak to the king? How am I going to speak to him? What will I say? I tell you, he would have gone through 1,000,000 different scenarios. And then when the opportunity came, when the king said to him, "Why are you so downcast?" he knew, this is my opportunity. And he seized the opportunity. Those who fail to plan to fail. I think we all know that saying. I don't know who said it, but we all know it. And many of us have these visions, but we don't plan, and we get nowhere because of it. So I want to encourage you. You need to have a plan, but you have to be courageous and willing to run with that plan. So let's have a look here at the story. Nehemiah 2 verse 9 to 20, it says, "So I went to the governor of Trans-Euphrates and gave them the king's letter. The king had also sent army officers and cavalry with me." Because you need to understand, they would have not allowed him to go back to Jerusalem. They would have stopped him if he had not had this letter from the king and a cavalry backing him. When Sanballat and Horonite and Tobiah, the Ammonite officials, heard about this, they were very much disturbed that someone had come to promote the welfare of the Israelites, because they did not want them to rebuild Jerusalem. They did not want them to be secure. I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, so he went all the way there, and he was there 3 days, okay? I set out during the night, so he'd rested obviously for 3 days, just recuperating. I set out during the night with a few men. I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do for Jerusalem. There were no mounts with me except the one I was riding on. Now, I personally think that's probably a horse. It could be a camel. I think it was a horse that he was on. The Bible doesn't say. Verse 13, "But by night I went out through the valley gates towards the Jackal Well and the Dung Gate, examining the walls of Jerusalem, which had been broken down, and its gates, which had been destroyed by fire. Then I moved on towards the Fountain Gate and the King's Pool, but there was not enough room for my mount to get through. So I went up the valley by night, examining the wall. Finally, I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate. The officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, because as yet I had said nothing to the Jews or the priests or nobles or officials or any others who would be doing the work. I said nothing to no one. Sure. Then I said to them, once he came back, he says to them, "You see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been burnt with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace." I also told them about the gracious hand of God upon me and what the king had said to me. They replied, "Let us start rebuilding." So they began this good work. But when Sanballat and the Horonite, Tobiah, the Ammonite officials, and Geshem, the Arab, heard about it, they mocked and ridiculed us. "What is this you are doing?" they asked. "Are you rebelling against the king?" I answered them by saying, the God of heaven will give us success. We, his servants, will start rebuilding. But as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim or historic right to it. Let us have a look at some of the barriers. Firstly, comfort can keep us from moving forward with our vision. Who of you, if you sitting, you're basically living like a king. You're the cupbearer to the king. You have all the food that he eats, you eat. Caviar, the best of everything, you have there. The best wines, the best drinks. That's nice. Who would like to live like that? Hey? It's like living in a 5-star hotel. Who of you would want to give that up? Go on a 1,500 kilometer journey, okay, in that excruciating wilderness and heat. Who of you would want to do that? To go and build a wall and to build a temple in Jerusalem? Who of you would want to do that? There's very few people that would be willing to do that. And this is the problem with most of us. We have this vision, I want to accomplish this, but you know what prevents us? One of the main things is comfort. No, I'm comfortable where I am. I'm secure with what I have. We're scared of losing what we have. And therefore we will never accomplish the vision. And this is one of the major problems with people in life. So I went to the governor of Trans-Euphrates, Nehemiah 2 verse 9, and gave them the king's letter. The king had also sent army officials and cavalry with me. And here he goes, and we see what happens. He goes and he says, God has called me to this. I've been moved. I'm going to give up this comfy lifestyle to go and accomplish that. And I want to know from you, are you willing to give up your comfort, your security, your whatever it is, your laziness to accomplish the vision that you have in your heart? Who's willing to do that? One person. Is it scary? Hello? Are you scared? Oh yes. Do you think he had no fear in him? I can tell you now he had fear in him because he knew, but he knew that he had the gracious hand of God was upon him. He knew God had prompted and laid this on his heart. I know some people have a heart to start a business. They're fearful. But nothing's going to happen if they stagnate and don't run. But they need to know the timing of God. But let me tell you, it is not easy to do that. But if God has called you to it, it will succeed. Point A. Not all creature comforts will be at our side. And that we need to understand. Do you think when he went there was someone's, like at the palace where he was working for the king as the cupbearer, do you think there was someone preparing the food, serving him hand and foot? Like back at home, serving the king? Do you think so? Not a chance. He was going to have, I don't know what he was going to eat, but nothing in comparison to what he was having with the king. And you need to be aware of this fact that you'll lose a lot of your creature comforts because it's going to cost you to fulfill that vision. The thing is, are you willing to let go of those creature comforts? Number 2, or point B, not everyone is going to be excited about us moving forward. And here you see Sanballat, Tobiah and Gershon, they were very against this. And you're going to get people that are going to say, no, this will never work. Don't do it. Now, should you get people at your side and say, what do you think I should do here? Yes, you should. You should say, hey, and before you even jump, this is previous. We've already dealt with that. So you should have people that you bounce your idea off or your vision and say that you can get wisdom. You don't just jump without having other people's wise intake, because the Bible says that in the counsel of many there's tremendous wisdom. So make sure you have that. But then, do you think that even though after that you're not going to have people say, don't do that, or I'm going to make sure that you do not succeed? You're going to have that. That's just part of the game of life. You will never have everyone for you. You will always have someone against you. But the most important thing is that you know, if God is for me, who can be against me? And you stick to that, and you run with that. Number 2, contentment can keep us from moving forward with our vision. Who has a vision? Who of you here have a vision? One of the biggest problems is I'm content with where I'm at. However, I have this vision and I want to do this, but I'm content, and that contentment can stop us. That can stop us from moving forward and getting out of our comfort zone. And I want to encourage you to be careful of contentment, that, everything's fine. And sometimes God has to pull that rug to get that contentment that out of our lives, that we will actually move. Verse 11, Nehemiah 2:11 says, I went to Jerusalem, and after staying there 3 days, as I said, he's probably resting. He was resting after that hectic journey. Then he says there, I set out during the night with a few men. I had not told anyone what my God had put in my heart to do in Jerusalem. There were no mounts with me except the one I was riding on. He had told no one why he went to Jerusalem. So he went to do reconnaissance during the night so that he wouldn't cause up he wasn't trying to be a scallum or anything. He was doing it so that he wouldn't stir up the people. So he was doing it at night to see and check out the lay of the land, and all of us should do the same. What is my competition in this or in that? Right, let me see, okay, that. And even before he shared his vision, he first did his homework 100%. He had not told him what was going to happen, what God had put in his heart. And sometimes you need to be very wise in when you speak, when you share. This is what I feel God is saying. This is what I'm wanting to accomplish and do. Because some people will laugh at you and mock you and ridicule you if you do not share it at the right time. And even still, some will still do it. So be very careful when you share what God has laid on your heart. Verse 13. By night I went out through the valley gate, through the jackal well and the dung gate, examining the walls of Jerusalem which had been broken down and its gates which had been destroyed by fire. Then I moved on towards the fountain gate and the king's pool, but there was not enough room for my mount to get through. So he did a full reconnaissance. So I went up the valley by night, examining the wall. Finally I turned back and re-entered through the valley gate. The officials did not know where I had gone or what I was doing, because as yet I had said nothing to the Jews or the priests or the nobles or the officials or any other who would be doing the work. He didn't even tell them. Why? Because maybe some of them would say, "Oh, you crazy, this would not work. Oh, we don't have this and we don't have that." They would come up with every excuse. He first wanted to, what is the extent of the problem? And how are we going to tackle this? And that's what he did. And then verse 17, then I said to them, you see the trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins and its gates have been burnt with fire. Come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem, and we will no longer be in disgrace. So he goes, does his reconnaissance work, and once he's checked, this is what the cost is going to involve for us to restore that. He feels in his heart, we can do this, we're going to do this, this is going to be changed. We're no longer going to be living in disgrace. And then he tells the guys and encourages them And he says, hey, come on, guys, we can do this. Let's do this. And the same with our vision. We need to get people alongside us. And when we share it with conviction. And we know this is where we are at. This is what needs to be done. We can, together, we can accomplish this. And so he shares the vision and he says, come, guys. So, number one, investigate clearly what it will take to fulfill the vision. Do not do a haphazard reconnaissance or investigation. Make sure that you know exactly. It's going to mean this, I have to do this, 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 this. Count the cost, in other words, otherwise you become a laughing stock. Point B, do not become overwhelmed by the size of the vision. Whose vision here is very big? I'm just interested to know. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Quite a few of it. Many of you have big visions. That's awesome. And often the vision, when we get it, we think, no, I can never accomplish this. I can't do this. But I guarantee you can with God's help, with God's wisdom, with God's counsel. Because if the gracious hand of God was upon Nehemiah, so can it be upon you. So can it be upon me. But you've got to believe it. And you've got to ask God for the right timing. Point C, do not share the vision until the appropriate time. Because if you do, they might crush it. Be careful. Some people are crushers of visions because they think there's no ways. There's no ways you're going to be able to accomplish this. And I want to encourage you, be wise when you share it. Point D, make sure that you have a team around you to fulfill the vision. There's very few visions, real great visions, that you will accomplish on your own. You need a team around you. Because you might be brilliant at this, but you are useless at that and that. I know some people, like my wife, she's brilliant at so many things, but administration, she's scary. However, she's got good to a certain extent, but the minute you want to give her more, she, no, you do it. But that's not her natural gifting. So there are areas that you can learn, but you will never be brilliant at it. I am useless at cooking. I have no interest whatsoever of learning. Cooking an egg is big enough and enough for me. I don't want to learn. Serious, I'm being honest with you. I can't cook. I don't want to learn how to cook. She's brilliant. When I say good, that's maybe most of you women are good. My wife's not good. She's a brilliant cook. Literally a brilliant cook. She will, I think one day we'll see. We'll see. Let me keep quiet. My wife is a brilliant cook. Unfortunately, I don't experience the taste buds of that brilliance very often, but that too shall change. How to motivate people to join the vision. Share the problem plainly. Don't make it too, this is one I want to do. Boom. I want to start a YouTube channel in this and this and this. Who's going to be your audience? This and this. Don't go too elaborate, okay? Share the problem plainly. Then I said to them, you see the troubles we are in? Jerusalem lies in ruins and its gates have been burnt with fire. He just says that. Boop. That's the problem. How are we going to sort this out? Let's do this. Share the solution simply. Here you go. He says, come, let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and we will no longer be a disgrace. Why must we rebuild it? Because we are living in disgrace and we don't want to do that. Come on, guys. Share it simply. Share it with your spouse. Simply. Don't overshare. Say, this is what we need to do. This is what I want accomplished. Point C. Share how God had his hand on the vision. Nehemiah 2 verse 18a says, I also told them about the gracious hand of my God upon me and what the king had said to me. And he then says to them, listen, can you believe that I spoke to the king? You spoke. The king released me from my trustworthy responsibility and role. Remember that Artaxerxes' dad was murdered by one of his trusted allies, poisoned. So it was not an easy decision just for him to say, oh, go, no problem. God had touched that man's heart to allow Nehemiah to go and to give him the resources. And that's why he says, the gracious hand of God was upon me, that the king was willing to release me for this time and to give me on top of that the resources to fulfill this vision. And then number D, share the workload evenly. That is always going to be a problem. You will always have those that want to do nothing, those that will do a little bit, and those that will do way more. Even in the church you have that some don't want to do anything. You'll get some that you'll say, okay, will you build this wall? And they'll build that wall, and when they finish, they'll already go on to another and help build another wall. You'll get others that don't do anything. Then you'll get others that will just do what they have to do, and that's it. And you need to understand that is just life. That is not going to change. Hello? Should it change? Yes. Will it change? No. Why? Because I know that's people. And you need to accept that. Because if you don't, it will crush you. So even when you give someone work that works for you, some will excel and say, okay, I've done that, what can I do next? They are faithful beyond. Then you'll get others that will just do what they have to, and then you'll get others that will duck and dive. Who of you know that in business? Come on, guys. You get that in every business, let me promise you. And that is just people. You get some that will be faithful to the end. You get others that just do what they have to, and then others that will duck and dive at every corner they can. Number 3, conflict can keep us from moving forward with our vision. Who of you like conflict? Put up your hand. No. Not anymore, I hope. When you're younger, you might want to fight. Come on, none of us enjoy conflict. And that is a big vision stopper, let me tell you. Verse 19, Nehemiah 2:19-20, it says, but when Sanballat, the Horonite, Tobiah, and the Amorite officials in Gershon, the Arab, heard about this, they mocked and ridiculed us. Anyone likes to be mocked and ridiculed and say, that's a stupid vision. Why are you doing that? Come on, man. You're crazy. That's never going to happen. Who of you have had that said to you in life? Who of you? Have you accomplished that which you were told you're crazy? See, awesome. Yes, awesome. And it's the same with this new vision that God's put on your heart. You will get people that will bring conflict and will say you're crazy, stupid, never going to happen. Don't listen to that. Don't listen to the naysayers. You listen to God. If He places something on your heart, you run for it. And then they ask, are you rebelling against the king? Yeah, all these kind of things. Don't take this thing. Yeah, but the government says you must do it. Yeah, but should you take it? Did God say you should? Did you even inquire of Him? No. Well, who are you going to listen to, God or the king? Verse 20. I answered them by saying, the God of heaven will give us success. Why did he say that? Because he had already conviction in his heart. God has called me to this. I have to do this. Irrespective of the conflict that it may cause, irrespective of the naysaying that it may bring, I am going to do what God has called me to do, period. And you need to get to that point before you even launch your vision. That no matter what happens, I'm not going to be swayed from this. When his servants will start rebuilding, we, his servants, will start, me included, okay, as God's servant, will start rebuilding. But as for you, you have no share in Jerusalem or any claim or historic right to it. Just know that you're not with us. You're against us in this. That's fine. You don't agree with it. You think it's... But when the vision is accomplished, and when I succeed in this, just know you will have no share in what I have. You will not reap any reward or fruit from my labor or our labor. Do you have courage to say that? I think it's awesome that he says that. So, what must we do? We must expect opposition. You need to expect opposition in the fulfilling or the sharing and the pursuing of your vision. You are going to get I promise you, you'll get opposition. And you might even get it from those you love the most. Look what these guys, not that they were the ones he loved the most, but look what they did. They mocked him. They ridiculed him. They questioned their motives. They questioned what they were doing. They accused him of rebelling against the king. In your situation, you're crazy. It's never going to happen. You're never going to accomplish this. You don't have the ability. You don't have the resources. And you can have all of these things thrown at you. The thing is, are you going to stick to it because you know you're called to it? Are you going to stick to it because you know God put this on your heart? Point B, remember that God is with you. And if God is with me, who can be against me? And you need to have that almost seared, or almost branded on your heart. That I know that no matter what happens in this world, no matter what happens in life, no matter what happens in this vision, God is with me. And if He's with me, who can be against me? I'm going to run. I'm going to run with all my might. And I'm going to fulfill this vision because God has placed it on my heart. And all of us have to come to that point where we know that God has called me to this. And if God has called me to this, you will not stop. No matter what opposition you get. So, we can count on God, but can God count on you? That is the question. Hello? Some of you are called to start businesses and impact the marketplace, but you're not called to just impact the marketplace to make big ching for yourself. You're called to the marketplace to make big money so that you can fund the kingdom of God. Do you know that's why He put you there? I've had some people say, no, I'm going to give this and this and this to the church one day. And you never see it materialized. Because they first ate it all up. And I think you promised this. God heard you, by the way. And He will hold you accountable to that. So never say it until the time that you know this is the right time to say it. Because once you've said it, you need to honor it. And if you don't, God will pull the rug from you. And I've seen that in many, many people's lives. Many. And I find it so sad. And it's almost, you want to cry because you think, wow, imagine the impact those resources could have helped bring about in God's kingdom. And the impact is nowhere near what it should be because there's just not the resources. So may you go and do great exploits for God in whatever the vision that He's called you to. And I hope and pray that all of you here have many different visions. Some are more important and spiritual than others. Exercising and getting rid of a bit of belly fat's a minor, nothing vision, yet it's a vision. Then there's others. God has called me to accomplish this and do this. And you run with it and you be faithful in it. And all of us can fulfill the vision that God's placed on our hearts. Amen? But are you willing to pay the price? Who of you are willing to pay the price? Couple of us. Awesome. Count the cost. Do the reconnaissance. When the time's right, share it. And then run, no matter what opposition. Amen?